The night was quiet in the small town of Clearwater, and the stars shone brightly in the dark sky, when suddenly a strange light appeared above the hills, and the people stopped what they were doing to look at the sky and wonder and fear. The light was not like anything they had seen before. It glowed with colors that shifted like liquid, and it moved in a way that was both graceful and terrifying. Children pointed and screamed as the light grew closer, and the animals ran to hide from the strange energy in the air. The townspeople gathered in the streets and whispered to each other about what it could be. Some said it was a meteor, some said it was a government experiment, but everyone felt a chill run down their spine. On top of the hill, a spacecraft descended. It was unlike any plane or helicopter. It had smooth curves and a surface that shimmered like glass and metal. Combined, the light from it bathed the town in a glow that made shadows dance on the walls of the houses, and the wind carried a hum that vibrated in the chest of anyone who listened. Inside the craft, the aliens observed with their glowing eyes. They were tall and thin, with skin that reflected the colors around them. They moved silently, and their minds were sharp. They laughed softly among themselves, thinking humans were simple creatures that could be studied without worry. They had no idea how wrong they were about to be. Mark, a young man with a strong spirit and curious mind, climbed the hill to get a better view. He had always dreamed of seeing something extraordinary, and now it had come to him. He could feel his heart pounding and his hands shaking as he stared at the craft. He wondered what it wanted and why it chose their town of all places. The first sign of life came when a hatch opened on the side of the spacecraft. A ramp extended slowly, and the aliens stepped down. They looked at the humans with interest and slight amusement. They expected fear and chaos, but they saw something different. Some humans froze in terror, but others stepped forward with courage that surprised even Mark. A woman named Clara moved toward the aliens. She had a calm face and steady eyes. She held out her hand and, greeting the aliens, tilted their heads. They had not expected this. Humans were strange and unpredictable. They whispered among themselves in clicks and tones, and their voices made the air feel heavy with tension. Suddenly, a dog ran past Clara and barked loudly at one of the aliens. The creature flinched and hissed a sound that made the hairs on the back of everyone's neck rise. The dog's owner ran to grab it, but the moment had been set. The first human action had broken the calm. The aliens watched closely, and their eyes glowed brighter with curiosity and surprise. Mark knew he had to do something. He could not let fear control him. He raised his arms and shouted to the crowd to stay calm, and to show that humans were not weak. The aliens studied him. They tilted their heads and made small movements with their hands. The air seemed to charge with energy, and suspense grew in every corner of the town. A car alarm went off somewhere in the distance, and the sound echoed against the hills. The aliens reacted quickly, but instead of anger, they seemed intrigued. They began to move closer to the humans. Their steps were careful and precise. They wanted to study, but they had not counted on the unpredictability of human emotion and bravery. People began to gather courage. Some grabbed flashlights and shone them at the spacecraft. Others waved their hands to show they meant no harm. The aliens observed every action and made notes in their minds. They were learning fast, but each human gesture carried strength and defiance that the aliens could not ignore. The wind shifted and a strange smell filled the air. Some humans covered their noses, but others just stared. The aliens did not speak, but their presence felt heavy, like a weight pressing on everyone's shoulders. The town was tense. Every heartbeat seemed louder. Every breath felt important. Every eye fixed on the glowing creatures before them. Mark stepped forward once more. He called out questions to the aliens. He wanted to understand them, and he wanted them to understand humans. He did not know if they could hear or comprehend, but he had to try. The aliens paused and looked at him closely, their glowing eyes scanning him, as if deciding what to make of this creature who dared to stand so boldly. As the minutes passed, more townspeople joined the hill. They came with fear, but also with wonder. They brought blankets and lanterns and small gestures of peace. The aliens watched carefully. They began to see humans not as weak and foolish creatures, but as beings capable of courage and unexpected action. The night was alive with tension and awe. The first part of the encounter ended with the aliens stepping back slightly. They had not attacked or harmed anyone. They had only observed and assessed the humans in front of them. Mark and the others felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation. They knew this was only the beginning of something extraordinary and dangerous, and thrilling all at once. The light from the spacecraft shimmered and pulsed. It seemed to communicate without words. The humans watched in silence, their hearts racing and their minds full of questions. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone knew that the night of the alien arrival would change their lives forever. The morning after the strange light disappeared, the town of Clearwater felt different. The air was thick with whispers and speculation. Everyone wanted to know what had happened on the hill, but no one had answers. People gathered in small groups sharing stories and theories, but the truth felt bigger than words. Mark walked through the town with a sense of urgency. He knew the aliens had not left for good. They were observing and learning, and he had to prepare the humans for what might come. He stopped at the local diner, where some of his friends were meeting to talk about the night. They could not stop shaking from excitement and fear. Clara joined him in the diner. She had been awake all night thinking about the glowing creatures and what they wanted. She believed humans could show courage and wisdom if given the chance. She encouraged the others to stay calm and to plan carefully. The aliens were intelligent, but humans had something they could never measure: their unpredictability. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound came from the back of the diner. A chair fell over, and everyone jumped. Hearts pounding. A figure appeared in the doorway. It was not human. It was one of the aliens testing the town. They had returned quietly, and without warning, the diner fell silent as the glowing eyes scanned the room with interest and slight amusement. Mark stepped forward. He raised his hands in greeting, hoping to show the alien they meant no harm. But at the same time, he could feel a spark of challenge in his heart. He would not back down. He wanted the aliens to see that humans were not weak, and that courage came in many forms. The alien tilted its head and made a soft humming sound. The others behind it appeared from the shadows. They moved like liquid shadows, blending with the light and dark in the diner. The humans could see their thin bodies and reflective skin. They seemed calm, but every movement was precise and purposeful. A waiter dropped a tray in panic. The plates shattered on the floor. The noise startled everyone. But Mark stayed still. He took a deep breath and spoke loudly. He told the others to stay calm and to focus on their strength. The aliens listened. They did not speak, but the air felt heavy with their attention, as if every human gesture was being studied and recorded. Then a small boy ran past the aliens holding a toy. He giggled and waved the toy in front of them. The aliens reacted quickly. They tried to catch him, but the boy was too fast. He dodged and laughed. The humans around him could not help but smile. The aliens looked confused. The humans had no fear and showed creativity. The first small act of defiance made the tension in the room rise. Mark noticed a chair near the counter. He picked it up carefully and made a movement to show the aliens he was ready to defend. If necessary, the aliens paused, their glowing eyes shifting rapidly. They were intrigued and a little unsettled. The humans were not the timid creatures they expected. They were clever and brave and capable of surprising action. Outside, the town began to gather. More people, the sound of voices and movement caught the aliens' attention. They had to choose whether to stay inside the diner or leave the area to observe from afar. The humans were uniting, and the aliens could feel a new energy growing stronger with each passing moment. One of the aliens made a small gesture with its hands, and a faint hum filled the room. It seemed to communicate with the others. The humans did not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. The aliens were debating strategy, and Mark knew that humans had to act now if they wanted to show strength and protect their town. Clara suggested they use the environment to their advantage. They moved tables and chairs into positions that could create barriers and distractions. If the aliens decided to attack, the humans could use their knowledge of the diner to surprise them. The group followed her lead. They worked quietly, but with determination. Every movement was filled with courage. A sudden flash of light came from the doorway. The aliens tested the humans with a small display of power. A glowing object hovered above the floor, emitting heat and energy. The humans stepped back, but did not run. Mark raised his voice to encourage them to stay steady. The aliens were measuring reactions, and the humans showed control and bravery. The diner became a stage for an unspoken battle. Every glance, every step, every breath carried meaning. The humans were no longer just observers. They were participants in a test of courage and intelligence. The aliens had underestimated them, and now the humans began to shape the encounter with their actions. As the morning wore on, the first clash of wills reached a peak. The aliens realized that humans were unpredictable and formidable. They had strength beyond what technology could measure and cunning beyond what could be calculated. Mark and Clara led the humans with calm determination and quiet strategy. Their town became a place of resistance and courage. The aliens withdrew slightly. They did not attack, but they did not leave either. They hovered near the diner, observing every movement and reaction. The humans had made their stand. They had shown fury and intelligence. The first impression was not one of fear, but one of respect and caution. The aliens would remember this day forever. The town of Clearwater felt alive with energy and anticipation. The humans knew this was only the beginning and that the real test had yet to come, but they had proven to themselves and to the aliens that humans were not weak. They could act with courage and intelligence in the face of the unknown, and every heartbeat in the diner carried a promise of what humans were capable of. The sun rose slowly over Clearwater, and the town felt alive with a new sense of energy. The humans had survived the first encounter, and now the aliens hovered nearby, watching every move. Their glowing eyes followed the townspeople with curiosity and caution. No one knew what they would do next, but everyone could feel the tension in the air. Mark and Clara stood on the hill outside the diner, looking down at the streets. The town was beginning to wake up. People peeked from windows and doors. Some held tools or sticks ready to defend. Others just watched silently, trying to understand the strange creatures that had invaded their lives. The aliens observed calmly, their bodies reflecting the light in shimmering colors. Suddenly, a car backfired on the street, and the sound echoed through the town. The humans flinched, but did not run. The aliens reacted quickly. A flash of bright light shot from one of their hands, but it was not meant to harm. It was a test, a probe to see how humans would respond. The townspeople reacted instinctively. They moved together without fear. Mark saw an alley nearby. He shouted to a group of people to form a line. They could use the walls and objects as barriers. If the aliens advanced, they had to show unity and strength. The humans moved quickly and quietly, arranging themselves. They whispered instructions and encouragement. Their hearts raced, but their determination was stronger than fear. One of the aliens stepped forward from the hovering group. It raised its hand, and a low hum filled the air. It seemed to communicate a challenge. The humans could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. The alien wanted to test them to see how far their courage would go. Mark nodded to the people. They had to prove humans were not weak. Clara noticed a loose board on the side of a building. She motioned to a few young men to lift it and use it as a shield. If the aliens tried to advance, they could block and surprise them. The humans worked together, using their environment. They showed ingenuity and bravery that the aliens had not expected. The tension in the air was thick and electric. The aliens moved closer, but cautiously. They did not attack with full force. They wanted to study the humans' reactions. They circled the town slowly like predators, studying a new kind of prey, but the humans did not cower. They stood tall and ready. Every movement showed awareness and courage. The aliens' eyes widened with surprise and curiosity. A small group of children ran past the humans, waving bright cloths and toys. They laughed and shouted, as if the aliens were part of a game. The aliens reacted instinctively. Their movements became hesitant. They had expected fear and confusion, not joy and boldness. The humans' energy was unpredictable, and it made the aliens pause and reconsider their actions. Mark raised his voice and called for a coordinated movement. He pointed to the center of the street where they could form a line. The humans followed his lead quickly and silently. They blocked the path and stared at the aliens with calm intensity. Their eyes showed defiance and unity, and the aliens could sense the strength growing in the humans with every passing second. Clara spotted a small fire extinguisher in a nearby shop. She grabbed it and motioned to a man to hold it ready. They could use it to distract or protect if needed. Every human was becoming a part of a plan that was simple but effective. Their courage, combined with clever thinking, made the town a place of resistance and unpredictability. The aliens tried to communicate again, their hands moving and a low vibration filling the air. But the humans did not falter. They responded with gestures and signs of their own, showing that they would not be intimidated. The first human fury had been small, but now it was growing. It was a force the aliens had not anticipated. Suddenly, a loud crash came from a window, being broken by a thrown object. The humans reacted instantly. One young woman ducked and rolled, while another blocked the door with a chair. It was a small act, but it showed skill and readiness. The aliens observed everything, their glowing eyes scanning for weakness, but all they saw was determination and cleverness. Mark shouted encouragement, and the town responded. They moved with coordination, without fear, and without chaos. Each human knew their role. Even if it was small, the energy of the group became a wave of defiance. Encouraged, the aliens were forced to pause. They realized humans were not simple creatures. They were capable of fury and ingenuity beyond expectation. The wind shifted, carrying the hum of the aliens through the streets, and the humans felt it deep in their chest. It was a warning and a test at the same time. The townspeople held their ground, their eyes fixed on the hovering creatures. They understood that this was not a fight of weapons, but of will and intelligence. The humans will burn stronger than ever. By the end of the morning, the first real display of human fury had been shown. The aliens hovered back, slightly reassessing the situation. They had underestimated the humans, and now they had to reconsider their approach. The town of Clearwater had proved that courage, unity, and cleverness could challenge even the most advanced beings. Mark and Clara stood together, looking at the aliens. The town around them buzzed with energy and anticipation. The humans knew this was only the beginning, and that the aliens would not give up easily. But now they had learned their own strength, and the aliens had learned to respect it. Every heartbeat in the town carried pride and a promise of more to come. The afternoon sun burned over Clearwater, and the town felt alive with nervous energy. The humans had held their ground, and now the aliens returned with new movements and strange devices that glowed with power. The air was thick with tension and curiosity. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone felt the electricity of anticipation. Mark stood on the hill watching the aliens from a distance. He could see their thin bodies glinting in the sunlight, and their eyes glowing with intelligence and calculation. He turned to Clara and whispered that they had to be ready. The aliens were not just testing humans anymore. They were planning to challenge them in ways no one had seen. The aliens moved closer, using devices that floated above the ground. They emitted soft hums and pulses of energy that made the air shimmer and vibrate. The humans felt the waves pass through them. It was strange and frightening, but no one ran. They stayed in formation and observed carefully every gesture from the aliens and every movement from their devices. Clara noticed a metal pipe lying on the ground. She picked it up and handed it to a man nearby. They could use it to block, push, or create a distraction if needed. She instructed others to gather objects from the streets and alleys: chairs, crates, bottles, anything that could be used to protect or confuse the aliens. The humans were becoming creative and resourceful. Mark raised his voice and signaled for a coordinated move. The humans split into groups. Some would distract the aliens, while others would protect the weaker townspeople and lead them to safe areas. The aliens observed this with their glowing eyes, scanning for weakness. But the humans showed calm intelligence and courage with every step and every gesture. One of the aliens released a small sphere of light. It hovered above the street and emitted heat and vibrations. It moved slowly toward the humans. The people hesitated for a moment, but then a young boy kicked a small rock and hit the sphere. It wobbled, and the humans cheered. Quietly, the aliens reacted quickly, adjusting their device, but the humans were ready for the next challenge. Clara shouted instructions as the humans worked together. They moved tables and carts into positions that could hide them or slow the aliens if needed. One woman used a rope to tie a barrel to a post, creating a swinging barrier. The humans' ingenuity grew. With every second, their energy became a wave of defiance and strategy. The aliens had not expected such clever coordination from creatures they thought simple. The aliens raised another device. It glowed brighter, and a thin beam shot toward the ground. It was a test, a warning, a threat. All at once, the humans responded instantly. Mark swung a metal pipe at the beam, just enough to redirect it toward a wall. The light scattered harmlessly, and the humans exchanged nods and quiet smiles. Their courage and skill amazed even themselves. Suddenly, a dog ran into the street, barking at the hovering devices. It dodged the alien light and caused a small distraction. The humans used the moment to advance carefully. They moved together, blocking paths, distracting, and showing readiness. The aliens reacted, but it was clear they were frustrated by the unpredictability of humans. Their strategy had to change. Clara noticed a fire hydrant nearby. She grabbed a wrench and opened it. Water shot into the street, creating steam and mist. The aliens hesitated. The beam devices were less accurate in the mist, and the humans gained a small advantage. They moved with courage and intelligence. Using their environment as a tool, the aliens began to see that humans were not only brave, but adaptable. Mark led a small group toward one of the floating devices. They wanted to push it back and test the aliens further. The humans coordinated, ducking and dodging, pushing objects to confuse and block the aliens. The aliens reacted carefully, unsure how to counter the resourcefulness of the humans. Every movement taught them something new about the creatures they had underestimated. The townspeople watched in awe as their neighbors fought with courage and cleverness. They realized they could contribute, even in small ways. Every act mattered. Chair moved here, a barrel blocked there, a shout of warning there. It was a symphony of human determination and intelligence. The aliens were forced to pause and reassess. By the end of the afternoon, the aliens had withdrawn slightly. They had not attacked with full force, but they had tested the humans thoroughly. The humans had survived and shown ingenuity and courage that made the aliens reconsider their assumptions. Every glowing eye reflected surprise, curiosity, and respect. The town had become a place of defiance and learning. Mark and Clara stood together looking at the aliens hovering in the distance. The humans around them were exhausted but proud. They had faced technology and unknown power and had turned it into an advantage. Through clever thinking, unity, and courage, the aliens had learned that humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and formidable. The wind shifted, carrying the hum of the alien devices through the streets. The humans felt the vibrations deep in their chest. It was a warning and a lesson. At the same time, the town of Clearwater had proven that determination, cleverness, and courage could challenge even the most advanced beings. The humans knew this was only the beginning of a greater challenge, and they were ready. The evening came to Clearwater, and the town was alive with quiet anticipation. The humans had survived the alien tests, and now the creatures hovered at the edge of town, watching, studying, learning every movement of the townspeople. The air was thick with tension and curiosity, and the humans could feel it pressing on their skin. Mark walked through the streets. He noticed the townspeople moving calmly, but with alertness. They had learned from the encounters of the day, and now every glance, every gesture carried purpose and strength. He nodded to Clara, who was helping an elderly woman gather supplies. They had to show unity and intelligence at all times. The aliens moved slowly above the town, their glowing bodies reflecting the lights of the buildings. They did not attack, but their presence was heavy and commanding. It was clear they were debating and analyzing everything they had seen. Humans had survived and adapted, and now the aliens had to reconsider their assumptions about strength and courage. Clara gathered a small group in the square. She spoke softly but firmly, explaining that humans could show courage without rushing into danger. They could communicate, defend, and surprise the aliens with cleverness and unity. The townspeople listened and prepared quietly for whatever might come next. Their confidence grew with every word. A child ran past, waving a lantern. The aliens observed curiously, their glowing eyes following the small human. It moved with fear and excitement at the same time, but it was not afraid to act. The humans realized that even small acts of courage could change the perception of the aliens and inspire their neighbors to act bravely. Mark noticed a tall fence near the edge of the town. He suggested to the group that they use it to practice coordination. They moved quickly, arranging themselves to block paths and create barriers without aggression, but with intelligence and strategy. The aliens watched closely, their glowing eyes reflecting surprise and growing respect for human ingenuity. The wind shifted and carried a low hum from the aliens. The humans felt the vibration deep in their chest. It was not dangerous, but it was a signal of attention and awareness. The townspeople stayed steady. They had learned to act without fear and to think quickly. Their unity and determination made the aliens pause and reconsider their next steps. One of the aliens descended slightly closer. It moved like liquid and made a soft clicking sound. It seemed to communicate with the others. The humans could not understand the words, but they felt the meaning of analysis and caution. The aliens had never encountered creatures that combined courage, creativity, and intelligence in such an unpredictable way. Clara pointed to a small stream nearby. She suggested they use it to create reflections and patterns that could confuse the aliens if needed. The townspeople worked together, moving stones and logs to manipulate the water. They watched how light and movement could create advantage even without weapons. The aliens observed, carefully adjusting their approach to this new form of human ingenuity. Mark encouraged people to use small gestures of communication to show unity. They waved, nodded, and used hand signals. The aliens studied these behaviors, trying to interpret them. The humans had shown fury and courage before, but now they showed intelligence, strategy, and morality. The aliens had to pause and reflect on everything they thought they knew. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the town. The humans stood ready, but calm. They had learned from the tests of the day, and they understood that patience and observation were as powerful as courage and strength. The aliens hovered in silence, glowing eyes scanning and analyzing. Their pride in advanced technology tempered by the realization of human unpredictability. A young woman placed a lantern on the hilltop. She smiled at the townspeople, signaling calm, and hoped the aliens noticed the small act. It carried meaning beyond words. It showed foresight and care, and the humans understood that actions could communicate as much as words or devices. The aliens were learning this slowly and with growing respect. By the end of the evening, the aliens had stopped testing aggressively. They hovered silently, watching, analyzing, and reassessing. The humans, the townspeople, had demonstrated courage, intelligence, unity, and moral strength. They had shown that fury was not only physical, but mental and emotional. The aliens were forced to reconsider everything they believed about humans. Mark and Clara stood together on the hill, overlooking Clearwater. The humans around them felt a mix of relief, pride, and anticipation. The aliens had learned the humans could not be underestimated, and the humans knew that their unity and cleverness had created respect even for beings far more advanced than themselves. The night was quiet, but the tension remained like a promise of what was to come. The town of Clearwater had survived another day. With courage and intelligence, the humans had shown the aliens that they were not weak or simple creatures. They could act with strategy, adapt, and surprise. The aliens had begun to learn a lesson that would change their view of humanity forever. The humans were ready for whatever challenges the next day might bring. The night fell over Clearwater, and the town felt calm, but alert. The humans had shown courage, intelligence, and unity, and now the aliens hovered above the streets, observing quietly, their glowing bodies casting colors across the town. The humans could see them, but there was no fear, only careful anticipation. Mark stood on the hill with Clara and looked at the hovering shapes. They knew this was the moment when humans and aliens would finally understand each other. The town had survived tests of strength, will, and intelligence, and now both sides were ready for a new kind of encounter. A silent understanding filled the air. The aliens descended slowly this time, without devices or displays. They moved with grace and attention. Their glowing eyes scanned the humans closely. They paused at a distance, as if deciding what to do. The humans held their ground without aggression. They knew that calm and courage could speak louder than any weapon or display. Clara spoke softly to the townspeople. She reminded them to stay steady and to show intelligence in every movement, every gesture, every glance. She explained that the aliens were capable of learning quickly and that humans could influence their thoughts through courage and cooperation. The people listened and nodded, quietly understanding the weight of the moment. Mark stepped forward carefully. He raised his hands, not in threat, but in greeting. The aliens tilted their heads in recognition. They had studied humans for long enough to understand signals and intentions. Mark took a deep breath and spoke words of respect and curiosity. Even if the aliens could not understand fully, they could sense the tone and purpose of his voice. The aliens hovered closer and made soft hums and clicks. The sound resonated in the chest of every human. It was strange, but not frightening. It felt like communication. The humans responded with calm gestures. They waved hands, nodded, and moved slowly, showing that they understood caution and respect. The night seemed alive with an invisible conversation. One of the aliens extended a hand toward a tree nearby. It glowed faintly, and a small light floated above it. The humans watched in awe. The display was not threatening. It was an invitation, a test of trust. The townspeople stepped back slightly, but showed willingness to engage with care and intelligence. Clara nodded to Mark. They understood that humans had a chance to build trust and understanding through observation and patience. Children ran quietly to the hilltop, holding small lanterns. They did not scream or act recklessly. They showed innocence and bravery, and the aliens watched with glowing eyes that seemed to soften at the sight the humans were demonstrating not only courage, but wisdom and morality. Even the smallest gestures carried meaning and shaped the perception of the aliens. Mark approached, carefully holding a small piece of paper. He wrote a message of greeting and respect and held it up for the aliens to see. The glowing beings tilted their heads, and one moved closer to touch it gently. Without harm, the humans felt a surge of pride and wonder. They had connected with beings far advanced and far different. But through courage, intelligence, and calmness they had communicated. Clara motioned for the townspeople to gather near the square. They moved together in quiet unity. The aliens hovered around, observing every movement, but made no aggressive action. The humans were learning that cooperation and intelligence could shape outcomes more than fury or force. The night was full of quiet energy and shared understanding. Suddenly, the aliens hovered slightly lower and a soft light bathed the square. The humans felt no danger, only attention and curiosity. The aliens had learned that humans were capable of courage, strategy, unity, and moral action. They had underestimated the unpredictable strength of humanity, and now respect was forming in place of doubt. Mark and Clara looked at each other. They understood that the first true communication had occurred. Humans had shown fury, intelligence, and morality, and the aliens had responded with acknowledgement and cautious admiration. The town had proven itself as a place of resilience and cleverness, and the aliens had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. The aliens slowly rose higher into the night sky. They hovered briefly, as if saying farewell or promising to return. The humans watched silently. They felt pride and wonder, and also a strange curiosity for what would come next. The bond of understanding had begun, even if words were not shared. The meaning was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. As the spacecraft disappeared over the hills, the townspeople of Clearwater cheered quietly. They had survived and had earned respect without violence. They had used courage, intelligence, and unity to change the perception of beings far stronger and more advanced than themselves. The night was alive with energy and pride, and the future felt full of possibilities. Mark and Clara stood on the hill looking at their town. The humans around them were smiling and talking quietly. They knew they had changed something fundamental. The aliens had witnessed human fury, but also human wisdom and cooperation, and they had learned that humanity could not be measured by strength alone. The humans had shown heart, courage, and intelligence. The night ended with the town quieting slowly. The aliens had gone for now, but the lesson remained. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and capable of awe-inspiring action, and the aliens would never underestimate them again. The stars shone above Clearwater, as if celebrating the courage and unity of the humans below and the promise of a new understanding between worlds.